Next tonight, outrage is growing after the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a New York City subway was ruled a homicide by a medical examiner. Investigators saying they were waiting on the report to determine whether or not it was the chokehold that killed Neely, but no charges have been filed yet against the 24-year-old passenger who put Neely in that headlock. For more on this homicide ruling, I'm joined now by Dermot Shea, former commissioner for the NYPD and an NBC News law enforcement analyst, and Charlton D'Souza. He's the founding president of Passengers United, a New York City volunteer organization advocating for equity and safety in the city's public transportation. We should say the 24-year-old who put that, I don't even know what to call him, but the person who was sort of threatening other passengers, if you will, at least according to a witness, in the chokehold, was trying to restrain him. And he eventually died. And I guess the question to you is, from what you've seen, and if we can roll the video up for our viewers so they can watch it again in case they haven't seen this story, when you see the chokehold being placed here, and I believe this is the beginning part of the video, it was a chokehold for 15 minutes. Commissioner, when you see this, do you see a crime being committed here?
What I want to see is what happened before, and I think that is really what the district attorney and the detectives will be dealing with as they interview every single person on that car. What was said before? How did people feel? Were people threatened? Was there a weapon displayed? We certainly haven't heard anything of a weapon involved, but all of those factors are going to be.
But if some of the witness testimony holds up that this man came into the subway car, he was threatening other riders, is that enough to justify what you just saw there?
So then they're going to get into, and every single incident will be treated differently. In this particular one, with what I see on that video, they'll get into what was the intent of the ex-Marine. What is reasonable under the circumstances? What would a reasonable person have felt when that other individual came into the car? And is this a reasonable, depending on what he says? Remember, he has not made statements from what we've heard.
And there have been no criminal charges. We don't really even know if there's a criminal investigation currently ongoing. What we know is that there's this video's out there. It's been declared a homicide, and it's being politicized in a major way.
I would say that in an incident like this, where there's a loss of life, detectives will respond in every case. They'll confer with the district attorney, and then they'll make.
And you think those conversations are happening now?
Oh, they happened instantaneously. Yeah. And then there'll be a determination should criminal charges proceed. I think the prudent thing is what is happening in this case.
Charlton, what bothers you about the video?
Obviously, it would have been nice if there were cameras in that subway car. I know the MT is getting the cameras now. It's going to take a few years for them to be installed.
Right.
Obviously, like the police commissioner said, we don't know what happened in the moments before that video started recording. But I will say this, if, according to what they're saying, 15 minutes, if he was choked for 15 minutes,
that seems excessive to you.
That's excessive. And I just feel like, I noticed when he was dead, when we were looking at the pictures, the guy had his leg right in between him, and he was already dead. So, you know, that is concerning. But I feel like the whole sense in our city, you know, this shouldn't have happened.
I was going to say, your whole job is advocating for passengers,
yes,
right? And I think it's fair to say that New Yorkers can sometimes feel very afraid on those subway cars, right?
I've been assaulted 3 times in the subway.
3 times you've been assaulted?
Yes.
Recently?
About the last 3 or 4 years.
You've been assaulted 3 different
yes,
times. So when you saw that video, what was your initial reaction?
That could have been me putting that guy like that. But I mean, I'm not strong enough. You know, there was a time when I saw a guy harassing women on the train, and I remember I chased him down. I called 911. The cops came. Turns out he had 2 outstanding warrants, and the police warned me, never do that again, because you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation. You don't know if that guy could have had a knife. You don't know if he could have had a gun. Yeah. So that's why now when I see things happening on the train, the first thing I do is switch cars, press the emergency intercom, let the crew know, then go on Twitter and let the RCC Rail Control Center know.
I guess what people are outraged about is that it was 15 minutes, right? A chokehold for 15 minutes. That's way longer than any sort of MMA fight would take, right? And I guess the question is, did the person doing that know he had already passed the line, that the person was dead, or was he worried about the other passengers and his own safety?
And this will be exactly what the district attorney will be struggling with, in my opinion. And if you play it out, if charges are preferred, and it winds up going to a trial, what are the other passengers in the car going to say? Are they going to say something similar to Charlton, that I was the victim in the past of an assault and I'm glad somebody stepped in? Certainly not good for the case. So I think they're proceeding slowly. They have a ruling by the ME's office that it's a homicide. That essentially means somebody else's actions contributed to the death. I think we see that here. There'll be additional toxicology that comes in, and it's really going to come down to the witnesses on that car. In my opinion.
we're not at the point of Charles Bronson's death wish, vigilantism, if you will, but when you watch this, you're sort of reminded of that, right? And does it upset you as a former commissioner that subway riders feel that they're so threatened now that they have to take matters into their own hands? Because something else when you look at this video is, where were the police? Why weren't the police there? Why didn't they respond? Why did it have to get to this situation?
And I think I'll take a half a step back there. If you are a passenger in that car, what went through your head? This is what the DA is going to be struggling with as this individual came in and whatever he did, whether he threatened or whether he's mentally unstable.
Right.
Do you wait to be attacked, or do you step in and do something? Again, that's really at the heart of this. Then, once he decided to take action, is he doing it to protect others? And then it becomes minute by minute, second by second, frankly, Tom. How long was an appropriate length of time?
And Charlton, before we go, I mean, and the commissioner brought this up, and thank you for bringing that up. We can't not talk about mental illness and the people that get on the subway cars, and they clearly need help. And either there's not help for them, or for some reason they're not being treated at that moment, because a lot of New Yorkers deal with this day in, day out. This man, there's been reports that he probably was suffering from some mental illness.
Yes.
And it becomes very dangerous, right? It becomes dangerous for passengers. It becomes dangerous for everyone. How do you handle these situations? Do you defend yourself, or do you take potentially a possible beating? Not in this case, I'm saying, but in another case.
So what I will say about what we've done, every MTA board meeting, I've spoken to the mayor, I've spoken to the MTA chairman. We've pleaded for the last 30 years, even before the pandemic, when Commissioner Shea was commissioner. We were begging the city, to add 400 social workers in the subway, because right now...
To add social workers, not police, social workers.
Social workers, because the police officers who work the night tours and the day tours, they're coming to me and saying, we have someone in distress, but it's taking 2 hours or 1 hour for the SOS teams or for the Bowery Residents Committee to come. There is a problem in the city. Our elected officials are not holding the shelter providers accountable. They're not holding the nonprofits accountable that are getting millions and millions of dollars.
Commissioner, is that a solution, more social workers on the subway?
I think it's a complicated problem for sure, Tom.
Yeah.
Anyone that is out and about in New York City realizes that there's more we can do for people that are under distress.
Yeah.
I think the real answer here is, though, how do you get them the help they need?
Right.
And you can't bring them to a place and then walk away. And there are unfortunately people that need to be compelled to get help. And
Okay.
what does that look like?
Okay, Commissioner Shea, Charlton D'Souza, we thank you so much for joining Top Story tonight.
Thanks for watching. To stay up to date with Passengers United, please subscribe and follow us on social media. Learn more about us at passengersunited.org.